right, welcome to Bean on the Brain, episode 2. I'm going to start off with what I'm drinking today. Had some espresso earlier, but I've got some Tim Wendelboe here. I'll leave a link to this. This has been delicious. I actually reordered this. It was on a Fellow Drop, which, if you don't know what those are, a company that makes some wonderful pour-over gear, grinder, some drinkware. They do a weekly text message with some information about a coffee, and then you can choose to get it by just replying how many bags, and they'll ship it to your door. So it's kind of fun weekly thing. They curate a little bit and help you to discover some different things that you might not have considered otherwise. So delicious, and drinking out of my Magnolia Mountain glass. I didn't do the slurp effect. That was for my wife because she hates it when I slurp. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the Wendelboe coffee here. Again, this has been incredible, and I think that it's worth shouting out a little bit. So I ended up, let's see, photos. I ended up making it on a Fellow product there. I used a different kind of filter, though, for it. So these usually use flat bottom filters, but I have been using a trapezoid filter with this, and I think that it's interesting. The Abaca, they make really incredible filters. They have one for light roast, medium roast, dark roast, so they're actually thoughtfully designed for the type of coffee that you're pouring. And the flat bottom drippers tend to have those fluted areas, and they can get the bypass, or grounds get stuck in there. So if you use the trapezoid filter, you can get a better kind of seal around the outside so that the coffee is forced down through the grounds, or the water's forced down through the grounds rather than bypassing along the edges. Can give you just some better flavors out of your coffee. This coffee in particular is super interesting. The flavor notes on there are winey red fruits and mango, and you definitely can get the sweetness both in espresso and in filter coffee. What I found incredible about this coffee, and maybe the reason that I reordered it, was a minty flavor that came out. I think someone said too that could be kind of a lavender or maybe some other floral essence, but I really got a strong kind of mint out of it. Maybe it was the way that I brewed it or how I prepared it. But I found that really awesome, especially in like a small milk drink. The flavor really came through in such an interesting way. I just enjoyed it. It's the best coffee I've had espresso this year. There's another one that I'll talk about, Regalia coffee, that I really enjoyed for the fruitiness of it. It's a Kenyan, but this was my favorite coffee so far this year as espresso and in milk drinks. I've got the video of me making some espresso. I run the steam on this, so you can see that it's fully operational. Again, I've made some really great espresso on this machine. I'll talk later when I get to the decent about why I changed. And there's just an opportunity there too. Sometimes it's just what life hands you, and I feel really blessed to have been able to upgrade to that machine because I think it's unbelievable. And it's so much more interesting than this machine, but it doesn't mean that this machine isn't capable. And I think a Breville Dual Boiler and this machine specifically would be great for someone. I learned a ton from this machine, and I really do want it to be something that someone else gets, feels good about, and is able to make delicious espresso and milk-based drinks from. So let's take a look just a little bit about the process of making an espresso with this machine. So I've got it turned on here. This is one of the things I didn't know initially. Makes sense, but lock the portafilter in ahead of time. I use puck screens now too to keep the machine a little bit cleaner, but it heats up that portafilter, and then you can heat up the puck screen as well. I didn't this time, but I'm going to clean this thing before I ship it out, so not necessary. You'll actually see a cleaning device that I use. I'll talk about that at the end. I got that from Prima Coffee Equipment. They're a supplier out of Louisville, Kentucky. Super great for items like this. They do videos about all their things too, so you can learn about them. So I did a couple things off camera where I'm preparing the puck. I've got my little distribution tool. I use the kind of needle tool that's popular right now. And then I think the default tamper, if you're going to use the default basket, which I think is the best for this particular machine, it works just fine. If you've prepped the puck in the right way with the distribution, and you've got a good grind, then you're going to be just fine. Now, I did not dial in this because I didn't want to do multiple shots on it, because I had cleaned it a little bit prior to making kind of my example shot here. I've got my scale underneath there, and it's a little hard to lock in with on the lower thing. You will notice too that this isn't a super heavy machine, so you saw me move it when I'm locking it into place a little bit easier at times. So I'm starting the scale, watching for time. I'm always aiming for about 30 to 35 grams of coffee in about 30 seconds. I think this took about 22 to 23 seconds, so a little fast, but I've got it here with me, and it's a drinkable shot. It is a different coffee, and I'll talk about that on a future episode, but it's more espresso-based by Regalia. It's a rainbow espresso, so you could get that as well. I use the manual mode again because then I can watch the time and wait. You can program in those 2 shots though, specifically for volumetrics. It's not weight based then like the Decent, but it does put a specific volume of water. So if you dial it in, you are able to use that function on this. And there's a lot of other functions on here. If you hit the timer button on the display panel up there, you can see the shot time. You can change the pre-infusion. I have it set kind of in the middle at 7 seconds about right now, but you can certainly change that if you want to, and make it longer or shorter. I think the shortest I'd go is like 3 seconds, and the longest is, probably 10 seconds, but I think that 7 seconds for this machine really worked well. Okay, so I wanted to end here with a little update about the declumper. So we talked about that last time. I did the modification and put the declumper in there. It's working really well. I will say there are 2 things that I would caveat about it. You really need to do the Weiss distribution, which is a little spray bottle to get some water on the beans before you put them in there, because the static tends to clump them up enough, and it, I guess, doesn't declump enough, or can't break them up in the same way that the other one did. So it almost looks like it's extruding them, and I've got a video of this. And then, of course, the mess. It was already... Oh, and I lost my camera there, so I'm going to switch to the other one. It was already a messy camera, or a messy grinder, and it is extraordinarily messy with this. So Lance Hedrick had a great close-up of it, and again, I encourage everybody to follow him. You can just see the incredible amount of grounds that are coming through on this grinder. It is just, going everywhere on it. And then I will show you what I mean by the extruded version of that. So you can kind of see here, and I'll zoom in here, that once it starts to come out, it is almost, to the point where you had to disassemble the grinder so that you could get the grounds out of there. And again, I use the Nacimiento, the Tim Wendelboe that I talked about earlier. Absolutely delicious as espresso. So this I didn't use this time. So you can see me wagging the Matumbo finger there. I didn't use that because I wanted to see the mess. But what I didn't anticipate is that the static was so great that it actually, and my grind was probably too fine, and it actually choked the grinder, which is sounds like a technical term, but what you'll see happens, it basically clumps up in such a way that it almost extrudes out of there and then you can't get any more grounds. And this is not what it looks like usually. It's usually coming through very nice, but you do need to give it a couple of sprays. I also didn't have the kind of feeder in there that slows down how fast the beans are going through there. So that could have had something to do with it as well. But overall, it has made fluffier grinds. I've gotten, again, delicious shots. It's not that I wasn't before, but there was definitely grounds trapped in there that I wasn't getting out. And I feel overall that I'm getting more out and getting less retention, which I think in general, as a whole, makes for more consistency and better flavor shot to shot.